Three, two, one, and hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast, Mouse of Madness. This is Sam, joined by Randy and today Matt. Today's topic is dark comedies. So for those, just to define, so dark comedies are more of like a satirical type of comedy, making light of like bad situation, just dark humor kind of stuff. So this week we each picked one movie and get into a little bit more extensive of a discussion on each than past podcasts. So Randy, why don't you go ahead and just get us started off with your pick?
Yeah, for this week on the podcast, I picked for our dark comedy was The Big Lebowski. It was directed and produced by the Coen brothers. I'll just get right into pretty much what the movie is about. And for people who haven't seen the movie, pretty much the premises is there's this guy.
Who hasn't seen this movie?
I don't know. That's what it's kind of one of those movies I think everybody has seen, but you just never know. It's played by the guys. The main character is the dude, right? And his name's Jeff Lebowski, played by Jeff Bridges, who's an amazing actor. And pretty much the premises of this movie is he's like a stoner guy, like set back in the 70s, still like lost in those days, and his job broken. Kind of, he lives in a house, but it's kind of like a shitter house and stuff. And the movie starts off with these two guys coming to his house while he's taking a bath, I think, if I remember correctly, and they piss on his rug and fuck up his house, thinking that he is someone else that he isn't.
And don't they dunk his head in the toilet?
Yeah, they dunk his head in the toilet and stuff, and they ask him, where's the money? And he's like, do I look like I'm housebroken and I have money and I'm married, pretty much is what they ask him. And like, oh. And they leave his house and shit like that and stuff. And come to find out, he figures out who they're actually looking for, who's this other guy named Lebowski, who's actually a millionaire. So he goes to his house and pretty much asks for his rug to be replaced, and the guy tells him no, pretty much get fucked, go get a job, and get away and stuff. So pretty much the premise of the movie is he's trying with his, he bowls with his friends for fun, gets drunk and shit like that, but he's pretty much trying to get his rug back the entire movie, and he has to go through all these type of like crazy situations and scenarios just to get his rug back. And yeah, the entire movie, dude, it's hilarious. I love the whole stoner aspect of the movie and how he's just really like laid back and chilled, and like he doesn't really have a care in the world besides bowling, getting high, and hanging out with his friends is pretty much like what he likes to do. So I don't know.
Yeah, regardless of the shenanigans throughout the whole movie, he is just keeps that laissez-faire attitude through the whole thing.
Well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Yeah. It's like, as far as like, and then it was like a quest for a rug for him, pretty much. Because he just wanted his rug replaced.
Well, because he always said to tie the room together,
tied
right?
the room together.
Right.
And I love the entire movie where he's just drinking, and his favorite drink is White Russian, right?
Yeah, drinking him wherever he goes.
Yeah, the Caucasian.
The Caucasian. I've never seen someone actually drink a White Russian. I mean, the only thing I've ever even had a White Russian before. What was it, like Kahlua and like milk and like
vodka? That's it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kahlua, milk, and vodka.
Yeah. So
I don't think I've ever had one either. Actually,
they're actually delicious.
Are they? Because
you can't drink them all night, but
because the milk,
tasty. Right?
It would just seem like something, because I know of like just drinking like Irish cream and shit. It's like
Well. Yeah, and getting back to like what's happening, the funny thing is he goes out, sees that guy, goes back and tells his friends, which is Walter and his other friend is Donnie, right? And they're bowling. He tells them what's happening.
Yeah, Steve Buscemi.
Yeah, Steve Buscemi. And
he's like
John Goodman.
He doesn't have a lot of speaking lines, but I feel like I don't know. And it's just like it was like not a lot of. He didn't have a lot of impact really until the end when he died, But it's just like But they slipped him into so many scenes that he was just always there. It's almost like you took advantage of him being there.
Well, it's like when like Walter's tracking down. We may be getting ahead of ourselves here, but Walter's tracking down who stole the dude's car. And he's saying he lives in North Hollywood near the In-N-Out Burger. And they have this like little debate on where the In-N-Out Burger is, and Donnie's just chiming in like, "Oh, those are good burgers."
Yeah, dude, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it is. Yeah, that part's fucking hilarious. And like he does have like these little parts in there, and then John Goodman, who plays Walter, is always like, "Shut the fuck up, Donnie." Like pretty much always telling him to be quiet.
Steal the show. He steals the show. He steals the scene.
John Goodman.
Every scene he's in.
Yeah.
Seriously.
You
want a toe? You need a toe.
I can get you a toe.
So yeah, going back to where it leads off is like they go to the bowling alley. And he tells them what's going on, and Walter always has to bring it back to a situation in Vietnam. He's like, that fucking room tied it all together, and then he brings up something about Vietnam which has nothing to do with what they're talking about, and he always asks him, "What the fuck are you talking about, Walter? Why do you have to bring in Vietnam to every situation?" And they're bowling and they're talking about the bowling tournament and stuff, and like that's what they're worried about, and then they get mixed up with talking about the Jesus. The Jesus guy comes over.
Oh, hold on. Yeah, and that was John Turturro.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Don't fuck with the Jesus.
He's the pedophile, remember? And then, Walter tells him, 8-year-olds, dude. Like, he told him when he came into town, he had to walk around and fucking introduce himself to everybody that he's a pederast, is what he says. So I always remember that part. It's fucking hilarious. But yeah, going from there, then the dude gets contacted by the Big Lebowski again to tell him that he needs his help, and that's when he comes over and discovers he's a millionaire, and he's like, "I'll give you."
Well, and then Brant, Big Lebowski's like left hand man Brant, played by Philip Seymour Hoffman, the late and great Philip Seymour Hoffman, which just a great straight man in this, as in just like playing it. Not as in like sexuality.
Yeah, very stuffy,
Yeah,
by the books,
right?
Nerdy kind of guy.
Yeah.
He does everything for the Lebowski and stuff like that, and then
he leaves multiple messages about the carpet.
Yeah, right.
So I started to jump ahead, but
no, that's right. That's what pretty much happened. And then he talks to Lebowski and then tells him he needs his help and he'll be contacting him, gives him a cell phone or whatever. And he goes at the end, like him and Philip Seymour Hoffman are walking by, and he ends up seeing Tara Reid sitting at the pool, which is his wife, Bunny. And, she's telling him, like, she'll suck his cock for like $500 or something like that, or whatever it was. And he's
Did
like,
she really?
Yeah.
I forgot that part.
And, like, and she's like, and some guys pass out in the pool, which is, she's like, don't worry about him. He's a nihilist, pretty much. He's like, okay.
Yeah, that's right.
And he's like, okay, well, I'm just going to go to the ATM. And she turns around and like, gives him like some like look and stuff. And that part was hilarious, I thought.
Yeah. Oh, man.
So, but yeah, it gets funnier from there because, they end up contacting him, telling that Bunny has been kidnapped and they need his help. And, they're going to give him this briefcase and he has to drop it off at a certain time and location. And they'll replace his rug pretty much is the point he's getting at. So, yeah, and then from there it gets crazy because Donnie gets involved, not Donnie, but Walter gets involved with him, and he ends up taking a briefcase and filling it up with his underwear, calling it the ringer. He's like, "We're gonna give him a ringer, dude," and throws it out the window, and they take it regardless, and he freaks out and shit like that.
Yeah, wasn't the dude like a what? A ringer, man.
Yeah, and he has like the Uzi wrapped up in like paper bags.
He jumps out of the car.
Right.
Yeah, dude. Oh my gosh. This is such a classic movie, man.
Yeah.
Once again, directed by the Coen brothers. Wasn't this written by the Coen brothers as well?
Yeah, it was.
Man, just...
It seems like they make a lot of dark comedy movies now that I've noticed from I didn't really put two and two together until we were doing... like reviewing these type of movies for this podcast.
Yeah, they did the other one we're going to discuss later.
Yeah, but they've done a lot of movies in this situation. I've seen. It's crazy to see how many they've done.
This is their forte, man.
Yeah,
they're good at it. But yeah, and then you got Julianne Moore in the mix. Like this cast is insane if you think about it. Like, what a freaking great cast. Yeah, and then
I forget the Flea's in it too from what's it called?
Yeah, because then
he's one of the nihilists.
He's one of the nihilists.
Because then just to after the ringer, then the car gets stolen with what they with the money in it, and then
we got to talk about that part because the car gets stolen and then the car gets found by the police, and he's like he puts in the police report and stuff, and he's at his house. He's like, do you guys usually find this kind of stuff? He's like, oh, yeah, we do this. We find these kind of cars all the time, like giving them shit pretty much like, no.
Yeah, he says,
he's like, are you employed?
They got us working in shifts.
That's right. He makes that joke. He's like, do you have a job? He's like, I'm unemployed. just sitting on the couch, like, oh, okay. And he's like, oh, separate accidents when he tells him about his Rob getting pissed on because someone leaves. Oh, Maud caused, right? Maud is the Lebowski's sister. Calls and leaves
daughter.
Daughter, I'm sorry.
And that played by Julianne Moore.
Yeah, played by Julianne Moore. She leaves a message telling him that she knows she can replace the rug and give the rug back or whatever. Because I think he just stole a rug or took a rug from the house, which was their mom's rug, and that's why she's calling about it.
And Brant was leaving multiple messages.
Yeah, he tells Brant, he's like, oh, the meeting went great. He said I can take any rug I want.
Yeah.
That's right. That's awesome. So, yeah, she calls him, tells him that, and at the same time, he ends up getting his car back. Well, when he gets his car back, they figure out that Larry Sellers ended up stealing his car because he leaves his homework in between the seats. And then, you know, Donnie and Walter go over there with him, right? And they figure out that Larry's dad is the late, I can't remember his name. The guy who wrote the movie or the TV show. What the hell was the TV show called? They're all up like in hands and ears about it. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I can't think of the show, but like it's the dude who's in the Iron Lung.
Yeah, he's in the Iron Lung.
Right.
And then Larry comes out and they tell him he has the homework in a plastic bag.
Is this your homework, Larry?
Yeah.
Homework, Larry.
Is this your homework, Larry?
Yeah, that part's
dude.
great. He's like,
Walter goes nuts.
He's like, you want to see what happens when you fuck a stranger in the ass? And he goes out there and he thinks that's his brand new, you know, Corvette out there. And they come to find out when he beats the shit out of it, it's his neighbors, and they beat the fuck out of his car.
Out of the dude's car.
Right. So that part's hilarious. I love that fucking part in the movie. It's so fucking good. And then they go to the In-N-Out Burger, which was Matt was talking about earlier, because that's all they kept on talking about. He's like, we're going to get some burgers, some beers, and stuff like that, because they were at the movie theater discussing this before they actually went over to Larry's house. So, yeah, that part was good. But the weirdest part in the movie to me is always when he goes to visit Maud, and she does, like, all that crazy artwork.
Oh, no,
shit.
your first introduction to Maud. So he ends up, he walks in. And I forgot if he helps himself to the bar or what, but isn't she like flying in to make like some vagina painting?
Right.
Where she is on like a zip line almost and then splats against a canvas.
She does splat against the canvas on the ground, and she just takes her like what's it called? Her painting tools and fucking spreads it all over the ground. She's flying naked in the air while she's doing it.
Right, yeah, she's doing like a flyby.
That's right, but she was just doing it naked.
Yeah, and she has the great line. She's like, my art is considered extremely vaginal. That it intimidates a lot of men. Just the word alone, vagina.
And he just like gives him like a blank stare. He's like, okay. So yeah, like he like the introduction, like he meets her, and then she like, she like brings him to like back to his like his apartment, and like he's got who's the guy that they have there that's like laughing the entire time? That's
like David Thewlis. He played one of the teachers in Harry Potter.
Did he really?
Daniel or David? What's his name? Yeah, David Thewlis.
Yeah, he's the crazy.
Did you click on the actor?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Knox Harrington was the.
Oh, that's
character.
right. That's okay.
But,
I see what you're talking about now.
Yeah. What else has he been in?
He's been in Fargo TV series. I didn't know that.
He was in Wonder Woman.
Oh, he's Sir Patrick. Okay, yeah. Remember, he's that skinny guy that plays Sir Patrick in the movie. You maybe don't remember that part.
I don't remember, and I just watched Wonder Woman recently.
Yeah, that is him though.
Huh. Which I don't want to go off on a tangent, but that was really good. I really liked Wonder Woman.
Mm-hmm.
More than I was expecting.
But I think
anyways, yeah, sorry to derail, but
yeah, I think when he goes over and talks to Maud, doesn't he end up seeing that CD or something? She tells him like, yeah, those aren't really nihilists. Those guys are like in some like weird band. The three nihilist guys are trying to act like they're the ones asking for the ransom money.
Because at this point, they still have not like accosted the dude, right?
I don't believe so. Where they bring a ferret into his bathtub,
right?
No, they have.
Or no, when they're out, when they're in that parking lot, and then they like don't they like firebomb his car?
That's at the end.
Yeah, that's at the very end.
Okay,
that's right at the very end. But yeah, they end up coming into his apartment
and
the
timeline messed
dropping
up.
the ferret on him, and then I think that's when they tell him where's the money, Lebowski, and they're like, whatever, and he's like, I dropped it off and all that bullshit. So,
but then that's after the whole Jackie Treehorn. Because then, hold on, I'm getting mixed up here. Because then when does the dude end up over at Jackie Treehorn's party?
I think it's when after he talks to the Big Lebowski, I think he gets
Does he get picked up?
no, he goes back to his house and Jackie Treehorn's like little goons come over and
more goons
kick the shit out of him, right? And
Yeah.
they say Jackie Tree wants to talk to you, so he brings
Yeah.
over and talks to him, right? And then they dope him up, and then he ends up going to the police
Yeah,
department.
didn't they spike his white Russian?
Yeah,
Right.
And he goes to the police department, and the cops in there, and throws that coffee mug at his head and tells him he's a deadbeat and stay out of his town or whatever.
But holy skip over the whole like drug scene. I thought that was one of the best parts of that movie when he's
his
out
like
of his mind.
he's having like a out of body experience.
And then I love it because like then the two lights end up being a car, and it just transitions into he's just like running down the side of the highway naked, right?
Yeah.
Just all tripped out, and the sheriff thinks he's just some like dipshit asshole like deadbeat.
Uh-huh.
It's like stay the fuck out of my town.
Yeah, that part's great. But yeah, so from there, I think it's not to the point where it. I think when he ends up having like, Maud comes over to his house like after that, and like has sex with him because she wants to have a kid and conceive, and that's when he figures out that she's like gives him the plot of what's going on. So yeah, like I think it's the part where she comes over and does that. So like I think it's after all that she comes over, tells him pretty much, hey, like this is my father and this is like his plan or whatever, and he doesn't have any money. My mom has all the money or whatever, and she pretty much tells him that she wants a kid, and he's fine with it, but he's like, no, I don't want to be the dad, and she's like, no, that's fine. I'm not going to give you any responsibilities to be the father, and then he puts two and two together, pretty much figuring out that when he goes over and talks to the Big Lebowski, that this was a setup, and he was pretty much the fall guy from there.
But back to Julianne Moore's character and her friend when he's just sitting there and like Lebowski's having a conversation with Maude, and he would just start cackling.
He's like reading some magazine.
Yeah. And I forgot if Lebowski said something, but didn't he at least like look over at him?
No, he goes, what the fuck's wrong with this guy?
It's like, oh, that's so and so. That's just so and so.
Yeah, he's like, oh, okay. And that part is great. Yeah, but so after the part with after they meet and he does that and he talks to him, I forget what happens from there. Like,
does he ever get his carpet back or a carpet?
A rug?
Or does he? I forget. Did he ever get
no
resolution?
He never got his rug back because she ends up taking it because she said it's my mother's or whatever. So he doesn't have a rug to tie the room together pretty much. Oh, that's right. After that happens, they go back to their bowling tournament, right? And they go there, and then Walter talks about he can't roll because it's Shabbos because he still pretends to be Jewish, even though he's not married to his wife anymore or whatever. And he's babysitting his wife's dog, and he brings it to the bowling alley, and then
what a set.
Yeah. And then after that, his like they're in the middle of the tournament or whatever in playoffs, but he tells him his friend he steps over the line and he marks it as 0, and he's like, fuck that, dude. He's like, mark it as 8. And he's like, come on, man. He's like, Gary stepped in the line, or not Gary, but whatever his name was, and he pulls out his gun and his pistol, and he's like, look, we're marking it as 0. He's like, go by the rules, sorry. And then they call the police and stuff, and then that's when the nihilists are in the parking lot burning his car down.
And who the head nihilist guy was in. He's been a villain in a few things. Oh yeah, and then Sam Elliott was in it as the kind of not like, I don't want to say narrator because he doesn't really narrate, but he just like kind of pops in.
Yeah, he does narrate a few scenes.
He does.
He's like, let me get one of them sarsaparillas.
Yeah.
The cowboy type.
He's sitting at the bowling alley bar,
right? Yep.
And then just
You
another.
see him like twice. You see him at one point. He talks to him. He gets a beer and he talks to the dude. And then you see him at the end where the dude makes his his legendary comment in the movie.
Is sarsaparilla alcoholic?
It's like a root beer, as far as I understand.
Okay. And then, but no, I just want to make a point out of the characters in this. Fantastic, because then it's
Absolutely.
just like even his landlord. I thought, because
Right.
you could tell he was like kind of off.
He suckers him into his interpretive dance routine.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
That's where they go. That's where before they go to Larry's house.
But
Whenever,
then
and they're talking about the burger.
You could tell he's just kind of off, and he's just like, "You got the rent?" He's just like, "I'll have it next week." He's just like, "Okay, dude."
He's
He
like,
was just like,
that's why he goes and sees the movie or his little show and stuff.
Yeah.
He feels guilty.
And then his little interpretive dance.
No, that's an excellent scene. Like, he just looks so ridiculous. He's wearing like a bodysuit with laurels around his waist and like on his head, doing this like absurd dance.
It kind of reminds me of the fat chick from Donnie Darko when she was doing her dance of the swan.
Right. Yeah.
Oh fuck! I totally forgot about that movie. So pretty much it's getting into my favorite part though at the end when some nihilists come and they beat the shit out of him and stuff like that, and Walter bites off one of his ears and spits it up and punches him in the face. Donnie ends up having a heart attack and dies, and they can't afford to have him have a proper burial, so they go over to like a
side.
no, go over to a hardware store to get a fucking coffee can. He's like, I forget the story. It's like, where there's Frank's around here or something. He says or something, and gets the coffee can and fills him up. And when he's giving his eulogy to dump him off the thing, he starts talking about Donnie, and then he brings up Vietnam somehow right at the end, talking about all the good men, and Donnie was part of it somehow. And, and when he dumps it, all the ashes go back in Walter's face, and he's just staring at me. He's like, "What the
dude's face?"
Yeah, dude's face, and he's like, "A dude's face," and he's like, "What the fuck was all that stuff about Vietnam?"
And then that was it, right? Cut to credits.
No, after that they go back and they go back to the bowling alley, and then he ends up talking to
Oh, that's okay. And
The
then
dude abides.
The
Right.
dude abides.
Right.
That's right.
So yeah, that's pretty much the end of the movie from there and stuff. But it's funny because we didn't really get into the whole plot, but the dude ends up.
Shit, man. We just went through the whole
Well,
movie.
I mean, we missed a couple things, but the dude pretty much was the fall guy for the Big Lebowski, and the whole time he was setting up money to look like he was going to pay off his wife's ransom from getting kidnapped, and pretty much that wasn't the whole deal. He was trying to do it depending on him to make it look like he'd get the money back from the kid's foundation. So.
But this is one of those movies where it's just like I've watched 4 times, and like I just said before we started recording, I was talking about how like I miss like a decent part of this, but it's just like it's so funny because like this is one of those movies like I've always enjoyed. I don't want to call it cerebral by any means, but it was just like and you take out any scene and it's just like it's enjoyable,
Right?
And it's just like it like took me a few viewings before some stuff started clicking.
It can take a while to digest everything.
And because this was a flop. This was a box office flop that ended up being like one of the biggest. What do they call them? Cult.
Cult classics or whatever.
Yeah.
It actually spawned a religion.
It really did.
Did
like,
it?
Dudism or something like that. Yeah.
There's a huge following with like the Lebowski and the dude and all the
I
bullshit.
know they have like an annual get together, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
because he has like this like kind of like Zen aspect to his character, right? Like,
right.
He's very calm and collective, and like he just
through
had
thick
laid back.
and thin, through all of like the whole
Well, he's a typical
movie.
He's a
like,
typical
story
laid back
arc.
stoner that just has this cool, like mellow, like I'm from the '70s, like everything's chilling.
He is always like slipping in a joint, isn't he?
Yeah, he's always slipping in a
he
joint,
is,
or he's
yeah.
smoking a roach and something.
Yeah.
I love that part when he's driving, when he gets his car back, and he's listening to
Credence.
Yeah, and he drops
Yeah.
he drops the roach on his fucking on his dick, and he takes his beer and tries to pour it out, and he runs into the trash can, and like his fucking glasses are cockeyed, he's all high, and then he figures out that private eyes found him in that car, or that's what he was wigging out about. Some private eye was found him or whatever, and that's because the parents of Bunny were looking for her, so he was hired to like track her down and shit and stuff like that. So yeah, that part's fucking hilarious.
Dude, the writing. Like, how do you even begin to write a movie like this? You know what I'm saying?
clue.
I forget the backstory, but there's something that's tied to this movie, why they wrote it and stuff. Like there's something behind it. I was watching something, I can't remember exactly what it was.
They need a documentary on the Coens. I would just love to see that. I mean, just they have banged out how many good movies now, and how many Oh yeah, and so yeah, this was a box office flop. So, but did this win any awards anywhere? This was like very underappreciated at the time,
I don't
wasn't
believe
it?
so. Honestly.
I don't think it did.
Yeah.
I don't remember it winning any
But-
awards, but it's one of those movies like you said. It went.
This is gonna stand the test of time, you know. It really is. Just great acting, great cast. Just a crazy, ridiculous story.
Well, it goes back to this thing we were talking about earlier in our podcast. It's crazy how many good movies come out that are over criticized by critics and people, and then they end up being these smash like legendary movies after they come out and people love them like years later. It's crazy to think about how movies kind of do that kind of stuff.
But it's funny also because it's like I've always thought, and this is a personal thought, but I always thought Tara Reid was kind of out of place. But maybe it was just like because she was hot when they were making the movie, as in like that her career was hot back then.
Sure, yeah.
But like I don't know. To me, she's always been like when you have like this like just like I'm not trying to belittle her or anything, but you have real actors here that like. And she'd only ever been in what, like
Well, she-
American Pie,
Yeah.
right?
But she wasn't really supposed to be a main character in this. She was just supposed to be the hot wife that was here, that was that was young, that he was spoiling and taking care
And
of.
I guess at the time, dude, she was really good looking, and
She-
so yeah,
She was, and she was in some other decent movies, but yeah, she wasn't the greatest actress by means, but she was on that travel show E, like where they would go to, like party hotspots. And I remember like back on VH1 days or some E entertainment show or whatever. And then, dude, I remember she got just really like bad in the drugs and drinking.
dude, what was that? Right, yeah, and then that bad tit job. What was that Brooke Burke show?
Wild
VH1?
On?
That's what she was on. She took over for Brooke Burke when she
Did
retired.
she?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
And no one liked her because she was an idiot, pretty much. I mean, she was hot, but she was no Brooke Burke. So, God, I fucking miss that show. Brooke Burke, I'd fucking drink her bath water.
Right? Ain't it the truth?
Oh gosh. But yeah. So any
Well, so one thought I had, we mentioned like, the dude's like he's always cool, like in light of these like horrendous situations he's in, like, as far as they know, a real kidnapping is taking place where like severed toes are being sent back, but yet like at the end of the day, they're mostly concerned about their bowling league and the playoffs.
What? No, that's so funny you bring that up. It's just like because you got these group of just like everymans,
Right?
Just some
Yeah.
bowlers,
Yeah, there's just some like blue collar dudes, pretty much like.
and that's hilarious because it's like well, all this crazy shit's going on. They still incorporate the bowling league.
Like they're just like caught up in themselves in a way,
Right.
Like this is some pretty heavy duty stuff that's going down, and he's concerned about a rug. Concerned about his bowling league, getting burgers.
Yeah, when he gets the call after Walter pulls the gun.
Right.
I forgot. Was it because they got disqualified from the league for?
Yeah, because like he complained to the league managers or whatever, and they're like, "Sorry, dude, but we're gonna have to, whatever, like disqualify your scores."
But such a ridiculous movie, but it still felt like grounded in realism, even though it was like almost surreal.
Exactly. I think that's you nailed it with that comment.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I love this movie, dude. Literally, I've seen
Just like the world they built. It was like what a wild.
I don't know how many times I see this movie. Every time it comes on TV, I usually have to turn it on.
I'll be
because
honest with you guys. I
it's
gotta
good.
watch it again. It's been a while. Just a great movie. I kind of want to watch it now.
I mean, I never realized how good Jeff Bridges was until I watched this movie a couple times.
well, because you look at his body of work, and he's done some serious fucking acting. Like he's been in some like hard hitting shit. I mean, he's had his shitters too, but then I mean, this was the perfect role for him. Like it was perfect. I can't imagine anybody else being the dude now.
Well, no, you couldn't imagine anybody else. But yeah, come to find out, this is actually a lot of people's favorite movies. I know, like personally, they're like top like
Easy
2 or 3
go
movies.
to, and I don't blame anybody for not that there's blame to be had if this is your favorite movie, but it's like it's understandable if this is your go to if like somebody's just like top 3 favorite movies go. It's just like you could slip this in easily, and nobody would be like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, for a dark comedy movie, I mean, you couldn't ask for a better movie, in my opinion, for this type of movie. I mean, it's got a lot of comedy. It's got a lot of funny parts in it that are just unexpected, and yeah, the dark aspect to it was pretty good. So I think that pretty much wraps up the Big Lebowski, and let's go into their next pick. And pretty much, Matt, what was your pick for this week's on the podcast?
So I chose Fargo, which is one of my favorite movies. So it's a story, takes place up north. Basically, it follows Jerry Lundegaard, who's played by William H. Macy. He's an executive sales manager at a car dealership owned by his father-in-law. He never gets respect, and so meanwhile he's basically financed vehicles that never existed and got himself into a sticky situation, owing a lot of money. So he has this plan to, purchase a piece of land to develop parking lots, and he expects to get all this money for it. He takes it to his father-in-law, and they want to give him just this little finder's fee for it. So meanwhile, he has this plot to kidnap his wife for ransom to make up for the cash. And so it kind of just spirals out of control from there. So his wife gets kidnapped. In the process...
So, sorry to cut you off, but real quick, was his wife a taskmaster? I forgot. Was she giving him shit? Because I remember...
No, she wasn't. She was
really nice. It was her dad.
It was the father-in-law. Giving him guff all the time.
For not being successful enough, or it was just never good enough.
Wasn't William H. Macy, wasn't he desperate for money? I remember correctly. And
Matt was just
okay. That's what I just
remember.
Crux
of, right, because he had forged VIN numbers for vehicles that never existed and financed them through the bank.
Got it.
And so they're calling him up, hassling him all the time, Jerry, we're gonna need those numbers and get this squared away. And he's like, oh, I gotcha. Yeah, I'll send them right over.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah. In reality, they never existed.
Gotcha.
And so he's coming up with these other plots to recoup the money.
That's right, and that's when he puts up the fake kidnapping from his wife, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Well, and then also I feel like that was his plan B, right? Because his plan A was the parking lot deal.
Right. He was going to develop land into parking lots, which he takes to his father-in-law, who could front the money.
Yeah, he wanted just a loan from his father.
But they're going to give him a finder's fee.
Correct, and that's what set him off.
It's my deal here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember I had to watch the movie twice or 3 times to kind of figure out everything about it because it was such a good movie. I think I had to do this with a lot of good movies.
Also Coen Brothers.
Correct, yeah. Also Coen.
Yeah, also Coen Brothers.
Amazing cinematography and an amazing fucking soundtrack.
Well, I mean, it's funny because the movie takes place in, what was it, was it Michigan or was it North Dakota?
It was Minnesota.
Or Minnesota.
Well, so it takes place
Minnesota and North Dakota.
Right.
Okay, so because Fargo's in North Dakota, right? But they're in Minnesota.
Because they're border. They're by the border.
Right. Okay, so that's what I wanted to make sure. Distinguish between that. But funny fact I found out after I watched the movie was the movie where they took place and the time they shot there wasn't a lot of snow, so they had to produce a lot of artificial snow in a lot of places in the movie, like that parking lot scene where it's all covered in snow and he's doing a donut or peeling out in there. That took him an entire night to do all artificial snow because there was no snow on the ground around that time. Just something funny I figured out about the movie. It's crazy.
Oh, that's fun fact. So then, just to pick back up on the story,
right? Yeah. So, he hires these 2 dudes, Steve Buscemi, and it's Peter Stormare who plays the nihilist in Big Lebowski again.
Yeah.
So they get pulled over with Jerry's wife in the back.
He's got the blonde hair, right, Peter?
Right. Yeah. Okay. Exactly. Steve
Buscemi too.
Steve Buscemi, right? Yeah.
They must like him. The Coen brothers might like these guys.
Exactly. So they get pulled over with a kidnap victim in the back. So it turns out they have to shoot him, the officer that is, and another car drives by, so they take them
and
down.
Wasn't he just about to walk away, and then he heard a noise in the trunk? Or did he? They know that they were going to get into it.
Steve Buscemi is driving, and he's like, he's going to give him his license, and he slips like a 50 out of his wallet.
That's right.
And
I remember that.
So he's basically like trying to bribe him. He's like,
That's
"I'm going
right.
to need you to step out of the car, sir." And
Yeah.
and at that point, his cohort, played by Peter Stormare, pulls a gun and just
Shoots cop.
Shoots the cop.
I remember that part. Yeah.
right. And then so another car's driving by during this time while they're dragging a body, so they have to go take them down as well. And this starts the whole investigation from Margie, who's played by
Frances McDormand.
Frances McDormand, and and the plot starts unraveling from there. Jerry's whole plot to recoup this money.
Because then, funny, now that I think about it, another kidnapping story.
Yeah.
Right.
Kidnapping kind of centric story. But then, like nothing goes Jerry's way. And, because, even the kidnapping went bad, right? Like everything, and nothing goes right. Because then, his father-in-law wants his, people to, get involved all right, or he wants, and Jerry's like, no police,
Right.
no police.
Right.
Also, I gotta say the accents in this, just those
yeah.
northern
Dude,
accents.
the British accents were crazy in this movie.
And it's just like, and not nobody, they were all just acting, and it was just like
Right.
that much better. Frances McDormand was great in this.
I haven't really seen her in a lot of movies, from besides this movie, and her role in this movie was, pinnacle. Like she was one of the main characters in the movie, and she's great.
Yeah, for me, this is what put her on my map.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to think. I know
She did win
she
won an Academy Award for this movie. I remember.
Yeah, she did.
Right.
Now, this is the one I was thinking of when we were talking about Lebowski. This was the Coen Brothers movie that just killed it in awards. This thing, she won Best Actress. I think they won Best Screenplay.
Yeah.
They just killed it.
Yeah, but for overall, the Fargo movie was around 96. The movie came out, and where'd you lead off at, Matt? From where it was going? So the cops they kill the cop. They go back to trace those guys that they're killing, and I can't remember what happens
Because
after that.
then I'm
Right. So basically, so I guess. Taking it back a little bit, so Jerry thinks he's getting this deal, developing this land for the parking lot, and so he's calling. It was actually one of his mechanics at the car dealership that put him in touch with these bad guys.
That's right.
And so after Margie takes over the investigation, all the pieces start coming together. They see a call made, to the dealership. From these guys, and so he becomes under suspect, right?
Yeah, Margie right away starts putting the pieces together, which is funny for being a small town cop. You would think that they dipshit bumbly, but she was actually whip crack smart.
Wasn't it an accident? She kind of stumbled upon this. She wasn't supposed to be investigating this, and kind of how she just kind of stumbled upon it.
Yeah,
and figured it out,
just
right?
through police work.
Yeah.
Like Matt was saying, she started they started backtracking, and then she started following the path of of what led to, because this all started when they got called to the scene. I remember that scene because oh man, I would love to see a clip of it when she rolls up on the murder scene for the first time,
Right.
and her deputy or whoever is just they're just going over what happened. And there's just there's two more over there.
I remember that.
I
remember she's about to puke or something. She's like, I'm gonna puke or whatever. She's
I'm about to barf.
Yeah.
but she was also pregnant though.
Yeah,
she's
that's true. I
that was
heard
just
that.
morning
Time.
sickness.
Yeah.
Well, that passed. Now I'm hungry again.
Yeah. Another. I mean, just to good dark comedy is just it's here. just scenes, little bits like that, like, you know,
Right? Yeah. They're looking at this like execution style murder scene, and you know, she's just thinking about, oh, I'm hungry again. Let's go get some breakfast. Like,
Yeah,
Han?
I knew this too, but a lot of people think Fargo is based on a true story when really it's not. It's not a true story.
No, it's just that because the introduction, they had a few words where it's like, this is like based on a true story, but the names have been changed.
Yeah.
yeah. So I actually saw it was like an interview with Coens or something. Like, they felt that like saying that, although it was somewhat based on a future events, but like it didn't play out anything like what is in the movie, but they thought it gives it like much more gravity. And
If people thought that this,
right,
because
because
I
like,
guess it kind of does,
It does.
because, you know, even when they dramatize a true story, and you know that there's pieces that are dramatized, but like at the end of the day, if it is like truly like a tragic story, it hits.
well, because like if you think about it, it's horrendous. It's like you know, Jerry's this like smarmy dude, you know, never getting respect from his father-in-law, messes up with all this money, and he's such a coward. He's like, he'll take it to the point of fake kidnapping his
Dude,
wife.
selfish coward.
Selfish coward. And it's like, that's like dark as can be. Like, he'll sacrifice family, like people he loves, all because he's too afraid to, you know, fess up, you know, I forged these numbers, essentially.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy.
Right.
It's kind of It's kind of crazy to think about how both these movies that we just reviewed with Fargo and Lebowski, the Big Lebowski, about the Coen brothers, are kind of like, they do have some type of similarities, where to the point where both kidnapping, both about money, about some greedy person who all they care about is money, and that's all they're worried about, and not the end result and stuff. So I didn't really think about that until now, but it's kind of crazy how those plots kind of intertwine with each other. Now I'm trying to think about if there's any other movies with the Coen brothers.
It's a very relatable story, though, you know, in a sense of it's just like greed, or like, you know, being bad with money. Like, I guess the theme, not the story, but yeah, you just got this, just little shithead Jerry,
Right.
and it's just like, you know, instead of just manning up, and I mean, he's a weasel from the start with that VIN number scheme.
Well, it's like, yeah, there's a scene near the beginning where he's like, you know, delivering a car to this couple who had purchased from him, and he had tried to sell him on this sealant, a paint sealant.
Wasn't the undercoat?
Or something like that, yeah. I forget exactly what, but some with the paint, right? And he's like, I told you, I didn't want that. And he's like, well, it was delivered like this. There's not much we can do. He's like, but I'll talk to my manager. He said, he's like, good news. He said I can knock $200 off that clear coat. And he's like, you're a liar, Mr. Lundergaard.
Yeah.
A fucking liar. Like, so it's like, yeah, just to bolster his weasel credentials, you know.
Because was that the first
start.
Scene in the movie?
It's very early, yeah.
If not, yeah,
like
it's
first
very
15, 20 minutes.
I'll tell you what, William H. Macy, dude, he's a fucking great actor. Every movie he's in, I've literally so when I was a kid, I really didn't really like him. Like, 'cause I saw him in Jurassic Park or one of the movies, and I was like, this guy's a douche or something like that.
He plays the wiener character.
Yeah, the wiener character. But then the older I've gotten, the more movies I've watched him in and rewatched.
He's very good in Shameless.
Dude, Shameless, he's amazing,
I
man.
I had to stop watching because Shameless just went on for so long. And
Dude, Shameless
I go
is
by
so
the
good.
3-season theory, where it's like after season 3, regardless of, it's like unless you had a planned out storyline after season 3, it starts shitting the bed.
I'll tell you what, the show got just as good or even better as the seasons went on. And I'm
Shameless?
Yes, and I'm one of those people that I'm the same way with you. It's like after a couple seasons, I'm like, shows get terrible. It's one of those shows to me, like kind of like Dexter, where it's just kidding. As the seasons went on, it got better. Like the storyline didn't change, but the shit is always fucking hilarious and funny. I don't know. Just I guess you know, whoever kind of movie or TV show person you are, I think if you appreciated the first 3 seasons of Shameless, you're gonna like the last couple ones. That's just my opinion. So if you haven't watched them,
just like your
give it a go.
opinion, man.
Yeah, right. But yeah, he's a great actor, man. I really do appreciate like all his movies that are in. I really do like everything he does play in. So I
But
just had
then
to throw that out.
just to keep going, because I mean, like it gets messy here. But then hold on. But I do want to touch upon that scene when Marge is like, I forgot if they were in Minnesota or North Dakota, but when she's like tracking the path then back from right, like from Jerry's, and she's going back to North Dakota, or was it South Dakota? And
North Dakota, yeah.
And she makes that stop. How did she know to make that stop with when she's interviewing those girls?
Oh yeah, I forget. I totally forget that part
okay,
too.
so basically, right, like the dealership where Jerry's at, that's like the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, and so the bad guys were gonna take his wife up to North Dakota to like hide out.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
And so they shoot the cop in Brainerd, North Dakota. So that's where she's starting her investigation, right? And so she's like looking for any people that seen like some strangers around, that kind of thing. So yeah, she goes to the bar where these chicks because like there's a scene where Steve Buscemi's like, he's like, I know a place we can get laid, right?
That's right. It's for the hookers and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So like, you know, they bang the hookers, right? And then Margie's interviewing them, and she's like, "Could you describe the guys at all?" She's like, "I don't know, kind of funny looking." She's like, "Funny looking how?" Well, he wasn't circumcised.
Oh, Margie's. It's like that's like kind of like that 1,000-yard stare almost.
Right.
Like, okay. Oh, dude, that scene was. That's one of the funniest quotes, in my opinion, of the whole fucking movie.
It is.
Oh, it's kind of funny looking. 'Cause it's just like, yeah, still like, you know, just the northern accents. I guess because we used to take vacations up to Minnesota, and
We meaning your family.
my family, yeah, my whole like even extended family, like my aunt and uncles, we'd do a family vacation, and we would go stay up. It was funny because where we would stay, it was actually we were 50 miles from like the Dakota border, so you'd always be seeing signs for. Was it? I don't know if it was Fargo or not, but it's funny because the first time I watched Fargo was in Minnesota. But anyways, I digress. But what I'm trying to say is, it was just so funny. Just even going a few states north, it's like the accents, and it was like it was hard because like the first couple of years, it's hard like not making fun of them.
Sure, yeah.
But I remember one time we were at a Perkins. It's like the Northern Denny's, and
Yeah, I've actually been to one.
okay, and my cousin Mark, they asked him, he's like, "You want like something like extra bacon or something?" He's just like, "Yeah, you betcha." It was so fucking funny. Oh man. But just yeah, I can't just I'll sit here and just say it over and over. I just love the accents.
Right.
The accents were great. Does this? And I haven't watched the TV show yet, but does it tie into the movie at all? And just
No,
it doesn't.
No.
Totally separate.
TV shows completely separate. They kind of go for the same feel, which an interesting topic. When they started, I think this was one of the first ones where they started transitioning like movie ideas into TV series.
Right.
I think this was one of the first ones. And
I mean, I hear the
started
TV
like a whole wave of that shit.
I've heard this TV show is really good, and I need to watch it.
It
from
is
multiple
because
people.
each season's different, and you still get that same feel. It's like up north and stuff, but it is not. Yeah, it does not relate to the Fargo, like the movie world.
Yeah.
And then, but then yeah, just to finish up the plot.
Yeah. So after like the kidnapping and they kill the officer, which spawns the whole investigation. Things start spiraling out of control for basically for everyone.
Yeah.
Because like they end up
like Act 3 or whatever the official.
So they end up killing Jerry's wife. The kidnappers do.
It was on accident first, right? Or was it because was she like going? She was like getting restless, but when she was tied up,
Wasn't she trying to escape? And she had the bag over her head, and she was running in the woods, and like they go after her, and they try to catch her, and they end up killing her on accident.
or did she kill herself?
No, it's been a minute since I've seen the movie, but I was pretty sure they beat her.
Oh, okay. And they just beat her to death.
Right.
Yeah.
So that didn't go according to plan. And then, his father-in-law, who's like, like I said, never respected Jerry, that kind of thing. He takes it on his own to like deal with the exchange of money to the kidnappers. In turn, the father-in-law ends up being shot by Steve Buscemi.
Steve Buscemi gets shot in the cheek.
Right, yeah, because he, the father-in-law lets off a round and, like, grazes his cheek, bloodies him up real good. So, like, then he goes to bury the money because they got more than expected.
That's right. He used that ice scraper trying to bury it.
Because they originally, Jerry was telling him 80 grand or something, and it was $1 million.
Yeah.
Right.
And so he was pulling out the 80 grand to go meet back up with the guy because he stayed at the cabin.
Right.
And yeah, so then he takes the rest of the money and he buries it. And this is the defining moment. I think because it might be, not the defining moment, but it just really sticks out in my head. It might be because of the movie cover. Because it wasn't the VHS like movie cover. I don't know, but just when he's like when they pan out and you just see him like off the side of a highway and there's just like farm fencing.
Yeah, and it's so
like,
barren. You just
so
miles
barren,
of flat snow.
And
yeah,
he's just like I don't know, and he's just bleeding out. And he's just burying this money, and it was just like such a great shot. That just really stuck with me.
Yeah. Kind of thinking about it now, it's kind of funny that he planned this kidnapping. Kind of his wife is fake, and they end up becoming real kidnappers and killing people and doing shit that they didn't think they were going to do. So I thought that was always funny in the movie as well, kind of like a comedy aspect of it.
Yeah.
Little funny note that most people don't know, but the film editor that actually won an award or got nominated for an award for this movie, his name is Roderick James. It's actually a fake name they use. It's actually because they don't want people to know, the Coen brothers know that they've pretty much done everything in the movie. They're the film editors as well. So like when they got nominated, it said at the Academy Awards, like he got nominated for the movie, they were happy that they actually didn't win because they wouldn't know how to explain to people. They went up there and there's no Roderick James.
That is ridiculous.
And he actually got nominated in another thing for the Coen brothers too, but he didn't win as well. So it's just funny it's one of those funny things about the Coen brothers that I don't think a lot of people know.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
and that's crazy. It's like the All in Wonder Boys. Seriously.
Well, they didn't want people to know that they do every aspect of the movie. They're like people think that they overwork and they're over involved in the movies pretty much. So they do an amazing job. So I just thought that was funny.
It's like they're the opposite of the Wachowskis. In more ways than one.
What does that mean?
They're the Wachowski sisters.
Yeah, they're both chicks now.
Jesus Christ. So I mean that pretty much I feel like wraps up Fargo.
Well, if there's one more thing is when we get back, when Steve gets back and he's like feeding the woman into the wood chipper.
Oh,
well, no. So he brings like the 80 grand back, and he's like, here's your cut. He's like, I'm taking the car. Are we square? He's like, no, you pay me for the car. And he's like, are you serious?
Yeah,
I got fucking shot.
Yeah.
Are we square? And he's like pulling up his jacket to show his pistol. And then he just walks out, and then Peter Stormare chases him out with an axe.
Yeah,
chops him
down,
and then feeds him to the wood chipper.
But and then Frances McDormand, when she finally pieces it all together, and then she shows up. That's when Stormare's like feeding like a leg or something into the wood chipper, and then it's just the juxtaposition of like the red blood getting splattered out and guts everywhere over the white snow with like the white backdrop, and then he sees her and he just starts running, right? And
That's
she
right.
She pops him.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because she's yelling police, police, but he can't hear over the wood chipper. He looks up and she just points to the badge on her hat, and then he's like takes off running.
And then just to cap it off, I mean, the dark comediness of it is it's just like, wasn't the final scene where it was just like, her in bed with her husband, and he was a painter, and he was talking about how his like one of his ducks paintings just got approved to be a 3-cent stamp or something.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was just like, and they're just like, it's just her laying in bed, and it was just
nonchalant, just talking about stuff.
Yeah, it's business as usual for them.
Yeah.
Hon, I brought you Arby's.
Oh, what you got there, Arby's?
Yeah. Oh man, but yeah, dude, I could talk about this for.
It was a great movie, man.
It was.
I've only seen it a couple times, but I did recently watch it not too long ago because it was on. So, but I think for the most part that pretty much sums up Fargo, and we probably need to wrap up this and go to the next one. So moving on, Sam, what was your pick for this week in the podcast?
I went with Thank You for Smoking. I'll tell you guys right now. I think there's, I can't escape it. I don't want to bring it up every episode, but it was just like, there was a little bit of nostalgia in this for me, just because it was like not kid nostalgia, but just the time period this came out. It was just like, what was this? Late high school? When was this movie?
It was 06.
It was
2006. So
yeah.
that was my graduating year, and it was just like, I don't know. So there's just like already good memories just tied to the time period, and then I just remember seeing the movie with friends at the time, and talking about it, and it was just such a great movie. But anyways, enough of my bullshit. So just a brief recap, because I mean we could really and then dissect this, because I haven't seen this in a few years. But so you have
It was Nick Naylor.
Nick Naylor, Aaron Eckhart's character. He is a lobbyist for the tobacco industry. And his like arch enemy is, Small World here, William H. Macy. I forgot the senator's name.
He's like a Vermont senator.
Vermont
right?
senator, and he's pushing to get the labeling on cigarette packages that have skull and crossbones, and so then like you're just going through like pretty much like the day in the life of Nick Naylor and what it's like being like a tobacco lobbyist, and he like goes to his son's school for like parent day.
Yeah, like who's your daddy and what does he do? Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
That part's hilarious, by the way.
And then because what was
so like he goes into the classroom and they introduce. He's like, this is what I do. Pretty much, I'm a tobacco lobbyist. I work for the tobacco company. And then the little kid chimes in. The girl goes, my mom says cigarettes are bad for you and they cause like cancer. I think something like that she says. And he's like, is your mom a doctor? And pretty much she's like, no, I didn't think so. So pretty much like makes her feel bad about like when she asked that question.
Right.
Yeah, he can't turn it off kind
Right.
of. He's like always on at this point.
Exactly.
And it's like, and he's just like he's like so and I because he's a smoker too. And but they don't. I read later that they made a point out of not trying to show as little actual smoking in the movie as possible.
Yeah.
I think the only scene that actually shows real smoking is when they're watching like a John Wayne movie in a scene.
I do
and
remember
John
that.
Wayne
Yeah.
was smoking.
Well, it's funny because in the premises of the movie, it's like they try to tell you like it's like about your morals, like and like how Aaron Eckhart can like really like change your morals by using certain type of words. Like you might be against smoking, but by the time you're done listening to him, you might actually change your morals and your integrity and stuff. And pretty much,
yeah, he's smooth talker,
right?
Dude,
Smooth
to the
talker,
extreme.
And the reason he does this
he's a fantastic lobbyist.
Yeah, and the reason he does this is because it's about everything. It's about money and wealth, right? He does this for a job. He makes that comparison. It's like everybody has to pay a mortgage when he's sitting down eating dinner with I can't remember her name at the time in the movie. Who was it?
Is it Maria Bello?
Could be. Whatever the point is, pretty much made the point that everybody has a mortgage to pay, and this is my job, and this is what I do, right? Like he doesn't feel guilty about it because, so that's what I like get out of it. Like when he's saying that, so it is kind of funny. Like he is that kind of person, and there's people that really do exist in the world that do this kind of shit too, which is I think the other point they're making.
Right, and they can go to sleep at night, and they're just showing it's like these are human beings, And
Well, to that point, I think an interesting thing is like how Randy mentioned, he might convince you to change your own moral standpoint on this, while he's also compromising his own morals, for monetary gains.
Right.
But like, so he's kind of like, the hero in the story, if you will, or protagonist, whatever. So it's like you end up liking him. So it's like you yourself, as the viewer of the movie, you might in a way change your own moral standpoint. Like you relate to this guy, and
Exactly.
you see his humanity.
You do, because, and that's just to bounce back, because before they really get in the meat of like the plot of what happens is like, yeah, you get a day in the life, and he's just like he goes and he drops his kid off at the mom's house. They're divorced. They see them him and the mod squad go out for drinks. The mod squad is his group of friends. The Merchants of Death.
Right.
They're
They're like alcohol, tobacco, and firearms is pretty much what they are.
What was it? Yeah, no. So, yeah. It was. And David Koechner.
Yeah.
Was the gun lobbyist.
Yeah.
I wish I remembered what his organization was called.
I don't remember what it's called, but I do remember the part where they're sitting down. Like they always go to like a Chili's or like an Applebee's, and they sit down and just chill. And like they're just talking like it's normal, like me, you, and me, Matt, and you talking about our jobs and a daily grind, what's going on. And they're like they have like a betting pool of like who
kills the most.
Who kills the
Right.
most? Like it's
Yeah.
just normal, like no big deal. Like this is what our job does. So it's kind of funny at that aspect that like we were talking about earlier, like their morals, like that is. It's just a job to them right at the end of the day. Like, no matter if they believe it or not, they don't care. They're just doing this for a paycheck. So, yeah, I like to put that in there. But, yeah, that part's hilarious, I really, when I was younger and I watched this, you don't really think about it like that until you actually sit back and get the whole big picture of what they're trying to explain and say as the mod squad. Because I'm sure there's people out there that, they all get together and talk about this kind of shit. Like, I don't know.
But, yeah, it's just so funny because... one, it's David Koechner.
Yeah, he is
and,
hilarious.
all he has to do is open his mouth and say a sentence in a certain like tone, and it's hilarious. But
great delivery.
But yeah, no,
from that guy.
when they're doing the brief like backstories, and it was just like they show him, and it was just like what he joined to go to Vietnam, but he joined the military to
Because he wanted to kill college kids. Because he was inspired by Kent State, the shooting.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah, dude. Okay,
But he really got sent to war, which is like kind of a disappointment for him. But
right. Yeah, dark
he really
comedy
wanted to,
moment.
yeah, just kill college kids.
Yeah, inspired by Kent State, dude. That's like fucked up, but I'm not gonna lie, it's hilarious.
It is. I think I like the part kind of like the beginning where like his son like he likes his dad, but he doesn't like what his dad does for a living type of feel, and his dad's like trying to like show him like the ropes of like, hey, this is what I do, and I'm a lobbyist.
And he's very impressionable, and he's like, well, he looks up to his dad, and it's like over time, it's just like like throughout the movie, it's just like you can tell like he is like trying to like teach him sort of like tricks of the trade. But then there's a turning point where like he realizes he's like he's just like this is inappropriate kind of the approach he's been doing with his son.
Mm-hmm.
He does switch over because I mean look, so back to the plot is so you have this Senator William H. Macy who's like coming after the because the organization he works for is the Academy of Tobacco Studies. And like J.K. Simmons plays his direct boss, and then but like the overall guys like Robert Duvall or whatever,
Right.
And so but like that's their number one lobbyist. That's who they send into the shit, and he's always been good. And he was planning on speaking at a hearing or whatever, and then he gets kidnapped.
Yep.
And by some like activists, and they fill him up with nicotine patches.
That's right.
And the only reason he lived was because he smoked so much. His nicotine tolerance was so high.
Right.
Sweet irony.
Right. So like, and then I think weren't they even talking about how like you're gonna be the poster child for smoking? It's just like smoking saved your life.
Right.
And I think it was like after that though was the wake up call though. I want to say
for
Aaron Eckert.
Yeah, Nick Naylor.
Nick Naylor
Yeah, and where
it was just like okay.
Yeah.
Or well, no, because then I might be getting ahead of myself. When did he go approach the Marlboro man? Was it before or after he got kidnapped?
I thought it was after. Maybe
Yeah.
I thought it was after.
I want to say after, yeah.
after.
'Cause
Okay,
that's,
so
that's when
'cause-
he's trying to like also change his or
It's-
like take a different approach with his son.
Right, he ends up trying to take his son like on a field trip or take him somewhere, and then ends up going to Marble Man's house, right? And that's when that
right,
that whole scene
because
happens.
because I remember the what was the because he's sitting down with Robert Duvall and they're like drinking like what are they drinking like mint
Mojitos.
was it mojitos?
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, it pretty much wasn't that where he's telling him like, you gotta go take care of the Marlboro Man.
Mhm.
And so then yeah, he takes his son along with a briefcase full of money and pretty much, like stop your lawsuit, like, and they offer him the money and of course he took it. He had
Yeah.
like stage whatever cancer.
Of course.
And maybe okay, so then backtracking what I said earlier, so you think maybe that was the wake up call? Because I know his son man, this is one I really wish I would have like at least rewatched that scene because it's like I remember his son asking him something in the car on the way home about the money offered because the son saw the whole thing and it was just like, and I forgot how Aaron responded or Nick, but all I do know is there was like eventually he starts realizing like he doesn't like it clicks. He doesn't like supporting this kind of shit anymore.
Right.
And so then he still ends up going to the hearing, but it's not what William H. Macy expected.
Doesn't he offer him like he offers him a job, and that's when he turns it down, and he has like a change of heart. That's what I remember. BR, what the hell his name was, or whatever.
Oh, I'm completely forgetting the B plot where with Katie Holmes.
Right.
Where because no, I'm sorry. So before
That's who I was thinking about earlier when he was sitting down talking with Katie Holmes.
and I don't know where I'm at in the timeline, but there's a point where Katie Holmes is an investigative journalist, and because he had went out to Hollywood to talk about doing a deal with movie producers and getting cigarette plugs put into like movies, and then he hooks up with Katie Holmes, and he pretty much thinks he can trust her and like spills all the beans, and then she releases this like piece on him that like, and that's he ended up getting fired from the academy after that piece got released.
It was like a slam piece essentially.
Yeah, because he was even talking about his meetings with the Mon Squad, and even they were pissed off at right,
because
him.
he didn't he think like certain things were off the record.
Yeah,
but, yeah, she ended up publishing
right.
Like,
so yeah, he hit like that was his like bottom out, and but I still think we're good on the timeline though, because I think that did happen.
That's right, it did.
After he was kidnapped still.
Right.
And I'm just blanking like cuz what took him from that to cuz I know he still went and gave that like passionate speech at but the point he was making was just like it's not cigarettes, it's parenting. It's just like, it's just like you need to be more involved in your children's life.
Yeah, he's talking about being more responsible.
But more responsible, because then he puts the senator on blast for being like, Vermont cheddar. Like, like how many people, like, does your product kill?
Yeah.
Well, I think he emphasizes that people are already aware of the dangers of cigarettes and pretty much that...
It's redundant to put a skull and crossbones. It's
right.
obvious smoking cigarettes are going to give you cancer. And he's just like, you need to inform your... I just remember him making a point of... because it all tied back into his son. And I now that I'm saying it out loud, I never realized how important of a character his son was. Because it's like that was kind of like a plot device for him to like grow as a character as he's like bouncing like his whole all this off of his son the whole movie.
I think I remember during him talking, he was talking about like the tobacco companies are responsible for cigarette-related deaths and cancer, just like what's his name was related for like cholesterol deaths or whatever, right?
Yeah, because Vermont cheddar.
Yeah, so that was the point he was kind of like getting across to
Right.
the people in the media and stuff like that.
Right, we're going to put a skull and crossbones on, cheese or something.
Right, so like that was I think that was his turning point, and then like after he made that speech, he gets offered that job, and he turns it down, and he's like, no, and then he has that like epiphany, and then he like tells his son that he's going to start doing something better.
He's going to do his own consulting, I thought.
Right.
He was going to get into his own business and, kind of like he's taken control back, whereas like he's kind of like went along with the whole like tobacco industry and like, and their whole agenda
And
he realizes that's not his agenda.
Yeah, so
and he like grows as a
I
person.
think he takes his son's idea in consideration about debating, and then he opens up his own firm, and then that's what happens.
Because even by the end, it's just like, because it starts off and he's teaching his son all this grimy shit, but by the end, it's just like, nah, like he realizes the error of his ways, and he's like getting his son back on like a good path. And I think like getting into debating
I think his
and like
conscience
like
finally
a
kicks
healthy.
in after he realizes how much terrible shit he's doing and promoting.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, just a great character growth for Nick Naylor in that movie.
Yeah, like I was saying before, like to you guys, this was like probably his best movie that he was in as a lead character role. Like I've watched a lot of movies he's been in, and this is probably my favorite one he's actually played.
I don't know, man. I have to say, Battle for L.A., man, fantastic.
Yeah, if you're retarded.
Come on, man. It's 2018. Don't say retard.
Okay, sorry. Did I hurt your feelings in your safe space?
I thought I was in a safe space.
Yeah, but you're not. Okay, but yeah, dude, I actually
bittersweet. I felt like it was a bittersweet ending.
Yeah.
I do remember the part we talked to at the end, like the mod squad talks with like the fast food oil.
Yeah, because they get new friends,
right?
And it's just like, but Aaron doesn't go to those anymore. They just
Right.
show the mod squad with their new friends, and yeah, like you were saying, it was the fast food, oil, and biohazard industries.
Yeah, and he's talking about cell phone claims that cause brain cancer from like the radio waves or whatever, and then he talks about Michael Jordan plays ball, Charles Manson kills people, I talk, everyone has a talent.
That was literally the last words of the movie.
Yeah, and it was a good ending, closing, and it kind of does put in perspective what he's talking about. Like, I talk about all this kind of stuff, and that's what lobbyists do. That's what their job is, man, to convince people things regardless of their morals or beliefs.
It was just, I don't know, man. I think this is another one that it's, I don't want to say a time capsule, but like the whole, as far as like, I just think this will age well in a sense of like, it's not the story, but the themes of this are just,
well, because they're pretty universal, right? It just goes to like basic like human morality,
integrity,
and what are you willing to sacrifice, and can you grow from that? Can you.
And another thing on the just in general on the topic of dark comedies, like it's, I mean, you might not be able to say this for all of them, but at least the ones we discussed today, like there's so much you could suss out from these. There's like deeper meanings, like
there is,
like
there's
the themes to these,
mm-hmm.
like are just they're just fantastic, and I think that's what like that's the part that makes you dwell on them. And,
well, it
like,
makes you think about
it.
It's a thinking type movie.
All these movies I've seen multiple times, and these are movies like I could watch again. Like these are not like one and dones. It's
mm-hmm.
just like you can go in and you can watch these over and over throughout the years. I think on any of these, especially the Coen brother movies.
And that's what I was kind of saying earlier. It took me a couple times to watch, and then especially when you're younger, you're closed minded to a lot of things. When I think like you're a certain age, when you get older, you kind of see the deeper and bigger meaning, which I think that's for everybody, right? You can watch a movie when you're 10 years old and watch it again when you're 21, and you figure out like, what the hell did I miss in this movie, or like what the hell did was going on in this movie?
Dude, no, I can't. Like Rocko's Modern Life, watching as a kid, it's. You miss so many things that were adult oriented.
Right, exactly. That's what I mean. Right. So, but then in the movie, like I was saying, like for this movie, kind of like it was eye opening to the point where like it showed like how much they actually try to promote cigarettes to kids. They get started early for and they also talk about promoting cigarettes for like the more middle class. Like this isn't for like upper class people and stuff. It's more the people that have like real depression or problems. Like this is like their stress reliever. I got that out of the movie.
Well, because like no, like look, they got that from reality. It's like the Newport Pleasure ad campaign, where they show these nice white families in boat shoes on the dock, and they're puffing a Newport,
mm-hmm.
and it's just like. Yeah, man, nicotine advertising. It's if you go back and look at a lot of it, it's kind of disgusting in a way because they really know who they're targeting.
Well, it's funny.
You know, they like look at any dip. It's just like I guarantee that there's going to be like some sort of cowboy reference involved or something like, or like you're more rural or you know.
Put in this perspective, if you look at really high class, wealthy areas, you don't see cigarette boards or promoting. But if you go to like more middle class, lower class places, you see alcohol, cigarette, firearm shit posted everywhere. Because those are the people that they try to appeal to more because they feel like those are the ones who are going to spend more money on smoking cigarettes and doing shit. Now, they don't really promote that in the movie. That's just something I've noticed over the years of being places, I think, just traveling and seeing different places of the world.
Oh, yeah. No, don't get me wrong. They definitely target. They know what they're doing. They have... It's funny because, you know, in the movie Academy of Tobacco Studies, the whole purpose of this thing is to, like, refute the link between lung cancer and tobacco. And it's just like they've been studying the effects for almost 20 years, and they still, you know, it's still like, it's not that they say that it doesn't. It's just that it's still, it's undetermined and that. Right. It's just like... Because, I mean, in real life, it's like when they did the studies, they knew, like, early on, and they just hid that shit. And then they, you know, they continued on with their bull time. That's why...
It's like dating back to the 60s, they saw links between...
That's why they got hit so fucking hard in that big lawsuit back in the, what was that, the early 90s?
Yep. Yeah.
Because it was just like, once they got the internal documentation, that it was just like, everybody was in on it, and they knew what the fuck they were doing. It was just like... Dude, the government hit them so hard. I forgot with how much, but all those stupid anti-tobacco commercials you see nowadays are a result of that.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's crazy. Like, back in the day, there used to be, like, doctor-recommended cigarettes. Like,
yeah, Chesterfields.
Yeah, Chesterfields. You're going to breathe better and, like, feel better. Yeah.
Yeah, now with menthol.
What a fucking crock of bullshit that is.
Right. But no, I mean, yeah, just dark comedy. You're talking about, you know, a movie that revolves around a tobacco lobbyist.
It's funny, but when you actually look up dark comedies, there's a lot of movies I wouldn't even think were dark comedies. I can't remember actually when I was looking them up, but it was like, I can't even consider this a dark comedy, but then...
Same, but I mean, if you think about it, you can box some of that stuff into this.
I guess you could put it in one type of big pot of
But I would argue for sure that the three picks we have are true and blue.
Oh, they definitely are.
Dark comedies.
Right.
And the other thing about it is I noticed there's a lot of good movies that are dark comedies. Like, I didn't put that into perspective until I've reviewed a bunch of them. I was like, holy shit, there's so many good movies that are in this genre that I didn't even know were actually considered, like I was saying,
it's like,
considered
don't
dark
get me
comedies.
wrong, I'll always love those, like, you know, you can just, like, check out, and it's just the stupid comedies. Like, I mean, I love all kinds of comedies, but if I had to pick a favorite, it would be these thinkers, you know, these just a little bit more to them.
I mean, yeah.
I just love this.
I laugh more in
genre.
these movies, I think, than some of the newer comedy movies that come out. For example, like, I just watched Game Over, Man, the other night on Netflix, and don't get me wrong, I love those three in that movie. You know, the guys
Workaholics,
right? But the plot of the movie was terrible, and they made me laugh a little bit. But these other movies we just reviewed, I laughed more in those and harder in those than I did with the three guys you consider like, you know, new era of like the Three Stooges type of feel. Like I don't know what it is, but I think some of these movies nowadays they just try way too fucking hard, and it only appeals to like these young millennial kids that have no brain cells.
Well, it's like these films we discussed, they're using like subtlety and wit as opposed to like a more slapstick nature
fart jokes.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Like it might be just like
Potty
the delivery of a certain line, like how it's said.
Oh, Lord.
But yeah, I mean, to the point, I think these are great movies.
And I don't want to sound stuffy or like stuck up by any means.
No, it's
like,
not that.
I only enjoy the.
I just think some movies are just.
I sniff my farts. And I French press my coffee.
I just think the whole fact of what I'm trying to get out is that movies, when we're growing up, I feel like we're made to a better. For comedy aspects than they are nowadays. I think they're just thrown together to make a movie.
I mean, it's so commercial. I mean, the box office movies nowadays, it's like if you want to get good story now, you're looking at independent film. It's like now the big studios are producing products. It's tent poles in the summer. It's Marvel movies like every quarter. It's a business model. It's
Yeah.
not.
Well-
And I would argue too that this bleeds into the video game industry nowadays.
Exactly.
With
It does.
EA,
100%
is
it
it's just
does.
like- they're prioritizing profit over entertainment, and we are all suffering
Yeah,
for
because
it.
like Call of Duty's going to sell 1 million copies first
Regardless.
week or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like we'll keep making one every single year. You know,
Yeah, even though
without-
they're split by two different companies, they know that hey, you make yours every 6 months, and in their 6 months we'll make ours. Boom, they're making, and then they have people that are kind of like I'm more Activision or I'm more whoever that makes the other fucking Treyarch, yeah. But yeah, back to my point, kind of what I was saying is just like I feel like before we wrap it up, it's like these comedy movies that come out nowadays. It's like they put the same actors that are supposed to be like the popular comedians at the time. That is like regurgitated in every other fucking movie that comes out, which is why I have a hard time.
Kevin Hart in, Kevin Hart in, Kevin Hart, Dwayne the Rock Johnson, Kevin Hart.
But you know what I'm saying though. Like you feel like a lot of the same actors. They did the same thing with like Will Ferrell. And for an amount of time, and now you don't see him in the movies anymore because I think he kind of died off and people got sick
Dude,
of it.
everybody had their. I mean, when it comes to comedy, it's just like you get your time to shine. I want to say, Adam Sandler had the early '90s. Chris Farley did too.
Yeah, but
It's Kevin Hart's
but-
reign now.
But their movies are actually good. These movies that he comes out with are shit. I'm not gonna sorry Kevin Hart or whatever, but he's terrible he might be a good stand-up comedian, but I don't like him at all in any of his comedies. I think he's fucking terrible.
I fear for, and this is the last point I'm going to make today is because look at what happened to music, pop music, and the direction it went, and it was just like, it's just sad that it's just like, you know, this is where entertainment's heading. All of it is the same.
Well, I don't
It's
understand.
a product. How can we like get the most money out of it?
Right.
And
yeah, they don't want to take risks because like profit is so important, right?
It is.
Yeah, so like why take a chance on something that's like atypical when, you know, this formulaic stuff is going to put, you know,
asses in the seat.
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly. I mean, I feel like we can say this for any era of people growing up, right? Like everybody thinks their era of music and movies were better than everybody else, right? It's kind of that whole like I grew up in this era and our shit was better. But to your point is nowadays music and movies and stuff, especially music, it just went down the tank. I'm sorry. Like I'm all about new music and stuff like that, electronic music and everything comes out, but I feel like the product they put out nowadays is just it's awful.
Well, okay, because look, I'll say this. I rescind. I'm going to say more stuff. Get over it.
Well,
so
there's just so much pop culture shit that comes out that is just not needed.
right. But with the damn it, Randy made me lose my thought. All right, I guess I was done.
Yeah, you're done.
Well, it's just the point that everything has to be labored with pop culture. They have to put like a twist, and it's like there's no alternative anymore, like grunge or alternative.
Oh no, okay, so I got it back. So it's like, look, in the past few years, I've found more good artists off of internet radio, and it's just like, and then you go back in the car and you listen to like 105.7, Z1077, whatever. Like, it's funny now because they'll play some of the same shit. When before, like when we were younger, it was just like 105.7 truly was alternative, but it's just like, I can't tell you, like, between 2006 and today, like, I guarantee, like, they probably played Date Rape 3 times a day, every day. And all I'm saying is it's just, like, a rinse and repeat, like, because I don't know if it's, like, deals with the corporations or what, but it's just, like, in finding quality, it's, like, I've noticed it's just, like, older generations used to get spoon-fed that shit in
Right.
pop culture. Now we have to dig for it.
Yeah,
and that's
right.
all I'm saying is, like, to apply this to the movie scene, it's just like, yeah, you're going to get your fucking, you know, tentpole movies, but it's just like, you really, like, I think, yeah, if you really want to find good movies with, like, a little bit more deeper meaning than Kevin Hart or The Rock movies, it's just like, you're going to have to go independent. You're going to have to search it
Right.
out. They're not going to spoon feed us good shit anymore. They're going to spoon feed us the product.
It's the truth, you know. Like going to what you're saying about the point is like I listen to the point just in the morning, right? And most people that are probably in St. Louis know what the hell the point is. Other people are not going to know what it is, but you know, it's known
Just
for
get to the
alternative.
point.
Yeah, it's just it's known for alternative music, and now it's not even alternative music that comes on. I'm listening to pop alternative, and I've never even heard of it. I don't even consider it alternative. I consider it pop culture music, and then they'll play their throwbacks around lunch from like 11 to 12, and literally throughout the week, it's the same 30 songs they play for like an hour, and it's like, why can't they play some new type of good true alternative music? That's my point. It's like, why do we have to go out and discover it when it should be one of those things they want to promote?
And just to get ultra meta is like, you think about like, Woody or Rizzuto or like any of these music personalities, and it's just like they work in the music industry, like quote unquote music industry. They work in the radio business.
industry, yeah.
But it's just like, you would think that these would be like tried and true music fans, and it's just like, it just goes back to I don't know, I just can't help but thinking about like what we were talking about like with the themes of Thank You for Smoking. It's just like, how can you claim to like love music but you still play Date Rape 3 times a day for a decade?
Well,
like,
it's because that's what they're told to play.
and
like
it's
push.
no, they're collecting a paycheck. That's all I'm
Right.
saying.
Like the same
they're
thing-
human too. They're collecting a paycheck. I'm
Get
not
it.
saying that their industry's responsible for the deaths of millions, but still, it's just like it's one of those things where it's just like I have very little respect for radio DJs because I think they're all jerk offs.
That's fair, yeah.
I mean, it's very. Yeah, I totally agree with that comment. It just sucks because I feel
Patrico's a fat ass dumb fuck.
I just think it's terrible that nowadays, even if you wanted to call and request a song, who knows if they even really fucking truly played if it was a good alternative band or a good rock band or whatever station you're listening to because of the
Right,
agenda.
or if it wasn't one of the singles, you're not going to hear it. It's like you have to request singles. And I notice it's so funny, too, when you listen to the point and somebody requests a song that is already in the song loop. It's like, hey, great choice, dipshit.
Right, they
It's
were going to
like-
play it
I mean, you're
Anyway.
45 minutes
I mean,
from now.
Matt's in the.
yeah.
I mean, Matt, you're in the music industry a little bit, so you should know more about this than anybody. I'm sure you have a good feed or take on what gets pushed and what doesn't. No matter if you're the upcoming new hit band that could be in the alternative scene, but just because you're not in the pop culture scene nowadays, you're probably on the low end of actually getting promoted or actually getting a deal or whatever.
Right, so payola's always been a thing. Like, if your record company can like shill out the money to these radio stations, yeah, they're gonna play your stuff. And it's like, so everyone's like kind of turned to the internet nowadays, which it's like it's such a great platform to put music out, but also it's like there's so much bullshit to sift through now.
Well, that's what sucks. It's like unless you get popular and go viral from some type of who fucking knows, get some type of media behind it or something, like how do you become famous in this kind of era nowadays?
I mean, you featured on one of the Paul Brothers. If you can get your song on one of the Paul Brothers videos, I think you've made it. That's the new standard.
I just wanted to know
now,
that because
the
it seems
Pauls.
like you said, there's so much good underground music, but you never heard of it. Like I just heard.
But you know what though? I have to make a point. Is like to Matt's point about like how many voices drown out. It's just like I still have to have Pandora like feeding, like giving me like because I'll make a station on like say like Kurt Vile, and then like they'll play similar music, and that's where it's like that kind of stuff where it's just like I'll have a favorite band and they'll throw in stuff that's similar, and then go off on tangents that way and find stuff like that. Or I actually I found great stuff too, getting YouTube recommendations on things on videos I'm playing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just weird.
I mean, I've noticed
music
a couple
nowadays.
artists I've listened to came off SoundCloud, which I know SoundCloud's a huge platform now for everybody to record music or do whatever, and it feels like there's a lot of people that get noticed off SoundCloud or get blow up, and they're like, well, how they get famous? SoundCloud or YouTube? Like, it seems like that's the platform now people switch to or go to because that's the pop culture, millennial meta stuff. So, but we'll probably just wrap up the podcast there because we could probably talk about this crap all fucking day.
Yeah, we're going
We're
off topic.
Going down the rabbit hole. So, thanks for tuning in this week, guys, on episode 6.
Thank them.
If you guys like the podcast,
you.
please give us some feedback on what you like, what you didn't like.
Smash that like button.
Smash the like button. Follow us on Twitter,
Finger
YouTube,
fuck that subscribe button.
and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, guys.